oh, I've had the chance to be part of the city organization officially now for, gosh, going on almost 3 months. But prior to this current assignment, I worked for the city of Irvine. My personal life is fairly boring. My wife and I, we have two kids. Our son Ian is 13. Our daughter Avery is 9. I guess maybe what would be most appropriate to share. I'm just so spectacularly excited to be part of the Santa Monica community. I've wanted to work for the city of Santa Monica, gosh, throughout the entire course of my career. I kind of fell into local government, but this community has always been one that I've watched, not just because of how cool the city really is, but my wife and I, when we were poor, starving college kids, we met at UCLA, and I really feel like we figured out life together on the promenade and out on the pier. This is where we spent so much time early in our life together. The chance to be part of the organization now in this moment is just a real privilege for me. Other places I've worked in my career, in addition to Irvine, I worked for a period of time for the city of Huntington Beach, also the city of Monrovia. Worked in a couple other jurisdictions outside of those, but those were the cities where I most recently served prior to coming to Santa Monica. And gosh, I'm just really hopeful all of the experiences I've had professionally will help add value to addressing the issues here in Santa Monica, because we do have a lot of serious issues to try to address for sure.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. We're lucky to have you and your expertise and your enthusiasm. I get your emails because I'm on the Human Services Commission. A lot of people don't see them, but Oliver writes these incredibly detailed and enthusiastic emails to the staff, and he's just a great champion for the city already. I think you arrived at a very challenging time, and I'm curious if that dampened your enthusiasm for the job at all, or what it was about coming to Santa Monica at this moment when we are really facing a lot of challenges, particularly the fiscal headwinds. How you factored that into your decision.
Oh, I think for me, I've always thought of Santa Monica as that place where, gosh, we've always done things in this city that really set the standard for what cities can accomplish. Historically, that's really been what Santa Monica is truly known for. So many things that cities, do naturally, they all originated here in Santa Monica. And so the thought of having an opportunity to join the community at this moment, especially when there's so many challenges the city's facing, it's one of those opportunities that you don't get often in a career. And I just feel super privileged that the council asked me at this moment to join to see if we can't help. I think some of what, you start a new job, start with a new community or organization. I've spent a lot of time listening and observing what's happening in the city, and taking as many meetings as I can. Coming from Orange County, I think some of what you hear in Orange County is that, Santa Monica, LA, it's beyond saving. That, there's this level of disrepair that is that you can't come back from. As I've come here and I've gotten to know the community, what I've seen is we're definitely in a moment, and you might even consider the overlapping challenges that we're facing, somewhat of a crisis. If you zoom out to 30,000 feet, Bruce, you mentioned the city's budget situation. There's a large structural deficit that we've been dealing with for several years. We have multiple, pieces of large-scale litigation that the city's working
It's so
through.
quiet.
Sorry, muting. Let me unmute you now. Or can you unmute yourself, Oliver? I had to hit the mute all. Sorry.
No, Bruce, don't you worry.
There you go.
I think beyond some of the fiscal challenges of the city, it's all interrelated. When you look across Santa Monica, there's certainly this sense of disorder that exists. You see that our offices, for example, we're staring at an office vacancy rate across the city somewhere around 35%. And that's approaching crisis levels. 35% of our offices are empty. 16% of our retail storefronts are vacant. There is a sense that, as you come into the city's downtown core, things feel disorderly. Things may feel a little bit tired. I think that represents, sort of the moment that we're in. I've described it to our team as it almost feels like, since COVID, the city's been knocked down. We're on the ground right now. We've got to decide, are we going to pick ourselves up and how we're going to move forward? I'm super optimistic that we can get there. This was an opportunity. I think if I ever had it, I knew I would want the chance to come and try to assist. This moment right now we're in, I think, is critical if we want to get back up and start charting a new course for the city, to really get Santa Monica back to being Santa Monica, because it is one of the coolest places on the planet. There's just no doubt about that. And I know we can get back to that point if we're all rowing together. There's a lot of different ideas that we're maturing into an overarching strategy, a game plan for how we're going to get back. Excited to see if we can't hopefully find a way to pull forward together moving ahead.
You mentioned disorder, the sense of disorder. I think that, is a little bit euphemistic for what's going on downtown. And, that has impacted businesses, retail, tourism, all these
Sure.
important revenue streams for the city. What are some of the things you've learned either in prior jobs similar to this or just in getting here, that you hope to apply to change that narrative?
No, for sure. Bruce, for what I've learned in my career, especially in big, complicated organizations, the organization, for it to be healthy, you have to have a cohesive leadership team. You have to provide clarity for the organization regarding what it is that we're going to prioritize accomplishing, but really create clarity around the type of workplace culture that you want to create so that you can be effective as a city organization. I think you're correct. One of the things that absolutely is true, there is a sense of disorder in the downtown that's backed up by the data. If you look at, really where we have the highest need for additional attention to address that disorder, between Ocean and Lincoln, that's where 50% of all of our homeless calls for service occur. It's where 36% of all crime in the city occurs, is really in our downtown core. When you're driving into the downtown too, one of the things I've observed and noticed, there's a sense that it feels a little bit tired. Infrastructure looks a little bit worn down. Crosswalks aren't necessarily painted, signs are busted, sidewalks may need some repair. You got empty tree wells. That sense that really this council's established this priority. How do we make everything feel safe and clean again? I think that's a foundational piece and a foundational responsibility for a city. There's other elements that we need to get to, but that's certainly a cornerstone of this overarching game plan we've been thinking through, that we've been working to develop. How do we get healthier as a city organization? How do we then create clarity around a work plan? How do we create stability in the city budget? And how do we move forward in implementing this plan to create less disorder? All of that is being matured, and we're looking forward in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, I lost you. Sorry.
I apologize, I got muted, but we're looking forward to going to the city council in a couple of weeks to really outline this plan. How do we, really identify all of the major issues right now, that overlapping issues that we're dealing with? How do we develop a way to balance our budget structurally over the next couple of years? We really have a 24-month budget balancing plan we're looking at. How do we make the necessary investments now to start showing progress and recovering, especially as you think through the next couple of years? Santa Monica's got to be able to show the best version of itself to the world. And in 26, we've got the World Cup coming. In 27, the Super Bowl is going to be in town. And then in 28, the Olympics come. I'm confident if the city can do its part, we can really help demonstrate, for everyone coming to visit, man, the city is turned a corner. The city's coming back.
How do we, to dig a little deeper in that, we're in such fiscal dire straits, and there's this sort of elliptical thing where you need more money to have a safer, cleaner city. If you don't have a cleaner, safer city, you don't have as much money because you're not getting tourism dollars and business taxes and all that. How does that cycle get changed? What are some of your concrete approaches?
Yeah, for sure. I think first and foremost, um, when there isn't a strategy for balancing the budget long term, you start grasping at, um, maybe things that don't help at scale. And I've likened it to you can't afford your mortgage. So cutting out that cup of coffee, that's not really going to do much to help fix your overall financial situation. And to this point, the last couple of years, as we've been struggling with budget issues, we haven't yet been able to articulate a coherent, overarching strategy for balancing the budget. And without that strategy in place, it's hard to envision how you make investments right now to make an improvement moving ahead. What we've been maturing right now is identifying what's the scale of the actual structural deficit that we're dealing with, and it's significant. Um, how do we plug that hole? What are the specific concrete revenue streams that we're going to engage? Where are efficiencies we can achieve so that over a period of time, the budget is balanced? We're working through that. And I'm confident we can develop a program where there is the ability to get the city budget balanced over the period of the next couple of years. But then concurrently, how do we invest dollars now to bolster that recovery plan? We've been internally calling it a plan to realign. Because I don't think we need to rebuild. The city's foundations are still absolutely solid, but we need to change our approach. What we're thinking through right now is when the council approved the budget most recently, we're a community that's used to, as a city organization, having $300 to $400 million of free cash on hand. Currently, we're at a place, given all of the impacts we've had from various lawsuits we've been dealing with, we're down to a place where we've only got 150 million in cash left on hand right now. And during our last budget cycle, the council allocated 60 million of that to help really balance the city's budget over the next couple of years. To this point, our strategy has been, let's hope revenues recover. What we've been doing is, and outside of revenue recovery, we have to have a more specific plan of what we're going to do to ensure that we can get to goal and have our budget balanced. The thought we have right now is, as we implement those components, and there's various strategies that we're maturing right now, we'll be presenting to council and the community for review in a few weeks. How do we simultaneously use that 60 million that's been set aside strategically to invest in parts of the city operation that need attention now? And the areas that we've really identified, one, really are related to the council's priorities. How do we make things clean and safe? How do we bolster economic recovery? How do we look at ensuring that we're facilitating housing for all? They're all interrelated in some respects. The components we've thought through at the staff level that are important too, we've got to build capacity, organizational capacity, in order to execute on those important priorities the council's identified. And really what that means is, to me and to the plan that the city executive team's been working to mature, how do we implement a new way of thinking about safety downtown? How do we think through a new deployment schedule so that we're aligning our resources that we do have with the areas where there's the most need? So Acting Chief Jacob, myself, the PD, I'm super excited about the plan that we're coming up with. We're going to be presenting that here in short order. We need to identify, though, other strategies to help bolster and support that public safety push. There's other new tools that are coming online that we're thinking through. One is, can we be proactive and think about moving the shelter that we have, Samo Shell? We need to provide a shelter. Should it be downtown? And what is the sheltering model that we should implement? Those are really important questions that we're wrestling with right now. We're putting a strategy around that. That's an important element of what we're thinking about. Heard a lot about the impacts of the train. Metro has a train that comes to town. Certainly, there's an element where that's adding potentially to some of the disorder that we're seeing. That's going to exist. We can't just complain about it being a problem. How do we develop a proactive strategy to address those issues? We've had some really good discussions the last few weeks with Metro that I think are going to be helpful. How do we align internally all the support services from what the fire department's doing to the city attorney's office is doing to our maintenance crews so that the work we're doing on the safety front is integrated with other components of the city operation? And how do we better align the social? So we have so many different tremendous programs that we offer in town, but how do we align those in a way where it makes a little bit more sense? It's all coordinated a little bit better. All of those are elements of how do we start to improve improve on the issues that you see that's creating all the disorder. We also are working through, can we spend a little bit of money now to go and improve the way that downtown looks and feels? There's so many different components of deferred maintenance that you see downtown. You see it at City Hall, for example. You walk up City Hall and there's this beautiful fountain that hasn't worked for years. We haven't invested in taking care of our stuff. How do we look at the downtown core? And is there a quick capital project at scale to show that we're going to reinvest in town and clean it up? And there's a number of tree wells that don't have trees. We have busted sidewalks, trash cans that are old need to be replaced, signage that really should be refreshed, paint in the ground so crosswalks are more visible. All those little things add up to, is this a place that is on its way moving forward, or is it a place that's feeling tired and run down? Those are all elements of the plan that we're looking at doing now. How do we use one-time dollars now to build for this revitalization of our downtown core so that we can improve on the disorder while we're working to balance the budget on a move forward basis? Once you do that, then you can start thinking about activation and bringing more activity back into Santa Monica. But those are sort of the starting points that we're really maturing a strategy around.
Well, we look forward to hearing the plan eagerly.
Mhm.
The one of the early things you did was to get a fiscal distress declaration passed, and I think that worried a lot of people that it got conflated with a fiscal emergency, which might seem like a semantic difference, but really is a more significant one. What was the purpose of the fiscal distress declaration, and how is it helpful for what you want to achieve?
Oh, that's a great question, Bruce. And I think certainly the city, I could have done a better job thinking about the impacts of how that type of resolution would be felt across Santa Monica. I think the reality is this: we weren't articulating any new information. We were trying to package all the different lines of thinking that have contributed to this depressed financial situation the city's in, and outlining and articulating the situation's real. The reason we felt that would be helpful is because there's a number of fronts that we're fighting on. There's a number of strategies that we're working to align that are really in response to the current environment. And when folks think of Santa Monica at scale, nobody is thinking that Santa Monica is, really in bad shape financially. Folks don't know that our cash reserves are down to 150 million bucks, and that over the next couple of years, that number, with the 60 million set aside, there's only 90 million of unobligated cash left that's in the city's, really savings account. Folks haven't recognized the scale to which we've engaged in legal payouts related to the sexual assault case that we're still dealing with. that liability line is also seemingly infinite unless we can get some legislative relief that we've been working through. And as we've been working and interfacing with different jurisdictions and maturing our overarching budget balancing strategy, one of the things we're definitely going to have to do is engage in discussions with other governmental entities. Having everything packaged in one resolution is going to help us as we start implementing different components of our financial recovery plan. That resolution we identified really it's going to serve as one of the things we point to when an agency asks, why did you do that? We're going to point to the fact, hey, we're in a spot financially right now where it makes sense for us to move forward the way that we are. All of those things have combined to really create the impetus for moving forward with that resolution.
Just looking at some of the questions in the chat, one I should have started with, which is, a lot of people are just unclear what the city manager does and
Oh,
what your position within the structure of our government is. Can you illuminate that a little bit for people?
yeah, no, for sure. Ultimately, I see my job as one where we're removing roadblocks that stand in the way of the city being able to achieve success. The way a city government like ours is structured, they're governmental structures technically known as a council manager form of government. What that means is the authority to make decisions day to day on policy related issues, that authority rests with our elected city council. So as it relates to issues of policy, of directionality of where we're headed, approval of budgets, that authority all rests and lies with the city council. Um, in terms of how those proposals are developed, in terms of how the city is operated day to day, there's a delineation that administrative authority in Santa Monica rests with the city manager. And so if you think about the city organization like a publicly traded company, the voters, the community, that's the shareholders. Shareholders elect a board of directors. Similarly, in a city, voters elect the city council. The board of directors on a publicly traded private company, they appoint a CEO to run the organization day to day. A city council appoints the city manager to do the same for the city operation.
Great. Um, we had sort of a string of high profile changeovers in our government with the city attorney and with your position, and then the chief of police. And Chief Batista was a very popular guy with residents and seemed to do a very effective job in recruiting new people for the department and getting morale up and a host of things. So there's a lot of question about what happened there, what all you can say about why the chief had to resign.
Oh, I think Ramon, during the time he was here, did a tremendous job helping to stabilize the organization. And really, I wish him all the best in everything that he's pursuing moving forward. What I can say is the organization's been taking shape. One of the things we're most focused on internally is how can we as an executive team get cohesive, and how can we identify a core set of values that we're going to be operating under consistently moving ahead, all geared towards living our mission, that the city is here to really serve this community in a way that helps cultivate and shape resiliency, a livable city, a resilient, inclusive city. The value structure that the executive team's really bought into moving ahead is one geared towards team orientation. And that team orientation centers around four key behavioral values that we're prioritizing in how we interface, operate, hire, promote, really the culture of the city. That environment that we're looking to create, those four values, starts first and foremost with humility. That consistently we need to have our leaders, especially, but everyone in the organization, thinking through how to place the needs of the team ahead of any personal ambitions that folks may have. Our next value is integrity, that you have to be reliable. The things that you commit to doing, make sure that you follow through and that you do actually engage and do the things you commit to. Motivation is our next behavioral value that as an executive team we've adopted. Motivation really to us means you have to be good at your job. You have to know what's technically possible within the authorities that you and have an obsessive approach of focusing on delivering results. And lastly, our fourth value is care. Understand that the things you say and do every day are going to impact those around you. So choose words, engage in actions that help bring people together. Don't let it rip people apart. Combine those values to us speak to this notion of team orientation, that this is a big, complicated city organization. It's a very engaged and active community. The only way we're going to find success and execute is if we're rowing together in the same direction. For me, that's where we start. Folks either feel like that's a place that fits their values or doesn't fit their values. But that's how we're going to operate moving ahead. And I'm confident we're building an executive team that leans into and lives those values.
So we had Acting Chief Derek Jacob at our annual meeting. Very impressive guy, and obviously been here for many years, knows the system. Is he in the running, high in the running? Do we have, any indication? I guess I would say that the NOMA board certainly supports the idea of his getting the chief position and that he's earned it after all this time.
No, I am beyond impressed with DJ. He's been in the short time he served as the acting chief. You, I've already seen a change in the way that we're deploying police services in a way that I think is notable. It's the direction I know that we want to move forward in, and I'm super impressed with all the things that DJ and his executive team are doing in the PD. I appreciate that feedback, Bruce, for sure. And as things mature up, we're definitely going to be looking to DJ for continued leadership in the PD.
In the category of disorder, do you feel like we have adequate police resources and personnel to handle what's happening on the streets of our city?
Um, Everyone will see in the plan that we're developing. I think the reality is this. Um, we can always use more resources on the public safety front. There's a twofold approach that we have. One, how do you maximize the resources we have right now? Are we deploying and engaging in activities on the PD front in a way that's appropriate and consistent with where there are problems? That's an important component of making sure we're moving things forward. The other thing, though, that's going to be important as part of the larger plan we're developing, we're going to be bringing to council in a couple of weeks, is how do we bolster that overarching plan in a way that's logical and makes sense. And so it's a roundabout way of saying we can always use more resources. There are limits to the resources we have, but the plan that we're putting together and that we'll be presenting for council consideration involves a wholesale reinvestment into key parts of the city organization, including the public safety operation. We're just firming up the numbers in the plan right now.
You did a presentation at the last council meeting about neighborhood organizations and the grants that we receive, and we were pleased that the council, voted to continue our grants, albeit at a slightly diminished level, and to preserve our ability to have political speech and, oppose or support as we see fit, with the one caveat that we can't endorse candidates, which NOMA never has anyway. But you said you were comparing us to other cities, and you said something about how we're much more staff intensive and city intensive than in other cities, but we don't really, the city doesn't do anything for our meetings, or I'm just not sure where that characterization came from.
Oh, I apologize if I misspoke. What I was trying to convey in that articulation wasn't necessarily the staff engagement, but really that the level of community engagement and the organization of our neighborhoods. So specifically around 7 different neighborhood organizations, that's unique. Cities typically, you always have different pockets of a community that are engaged, but to see it wholesale at scale here in Santa Monica, I think it's a spectacular thing that we have such engaged citizens. Makes things more complicated, certainly, because there's more opinions to try to sort through to find consensus. But ultimately, that's how a representative form of democratic governance is supposed to work. And so I wasn't trying to convey that the neighborhood associations suck up a tremendous amount of staff time compared to other cities, but really that there's more organization within our community groups than I've seen in most cities.
Got you. Thanks. Appreciate the clarification. One of the things that we became concerned with recently was a council member who has taken a position as an advocate for developers and is still going to be making decisions on the dais about development, which feels like a conflict of interest to us, but that person did not recuse themselves in the issues that were pertinent. I wonder if you had a similar feeling in that, or can you speak to that at all?
I assume you're referencing Councilmember Zwick.
Yeah,
I've gotten to know Jesse a bit. I've really enjoyed getting to know him and his perspective. What I've found is he's completely ethical. He's kind of a policy wonk in a lot of respects. So I understand the job that he's taken. What I can tell you about the situation is if there is a conflict of interest that's real, we will advise Jesse and let him know that he's not really supposed to engage in those types of considerations. That being said, it's not illegal for a council member to have a job working for an advocacy organization. In this particular instance, I know development related considerations are really a massive issue in the city. So I understand the perspective, Bruce. I think what I'd share with you and the rest of the folks listening tonight is if there are real conflicts that are legal conflicts, the city attorney, myself, will definitely let Jesse know and inform him it wouldn't be proper for him to participate in those discussions. There are other considerations, though, where it may appear to some folks it may not be proper, but if it doesn't cross the line of being illegal or unethical, I think that's the line that the city attorney and I really look at.
yeah. Well, we would certainly, I just wanted to bring it up because it felt like there was a very clear example of discussing and voting on the off-site affordable housing program, which is something that developers, salivate over, and that in his new capacity, that seemed to us like it should have been flagged as a conflict. So I do hope that you and the city attorney will keep an eye out for that. I want to, we have a lot of people chomping at the bit to get to our next
No, for sure, Bruce. I
subject,
understand.
but I do want to just see if there's a couple of last questions. Chris LaGrosse, you've had your hand up for a long time.
Hi, thanks, Bruce. Oliver, look, I would just like a very specific definition of not what the law says, but what you perceive your role as, because we've been listening to you for about 45 minutes now, and at times you've sounded like a mayor, at times you've sounded like a legislator, at times you've sounded like a bureaucrat. I really don't understand what you perceive your role to be. So can you be very, very specific?
Certainly, Chris. Let me try to be specific what my role is. My role is I work for the city council that's elected by the residents of the city. My obligation is to the city organization in delivering the results that the city staff and is expected to deliver. My job is to run the city day to day.
Hannah Mingella.
Hi, yes, I was hoping we could move the conversation onto the mental health facility in Santa Monica. It's planned to open right next door to my child.
Yes, that is the next topic, and we were going to start that
Great,
at 7:45. So we are
great.
getting there. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Uh, Oliver, appreciate your being here this evening, and it's great to get to know you a little better. We definitely wish you the best of luck with all the challenges ahead, and hope that you can always reach out to us. And the neighborhood organizations can often be a really valuable tool for either getting information to residents about new programs and policies, or in supporting things that we need to get done here in the city. So I hope you'll consider us allies and that we get to work together in the future.
Thank you, Bruce, for sure.
Thanks for being here.
Excuse me, how do we get to ask you a question? I'm sorry if you can hear me.
Sorry, I didn't see your hand up, so I didn't know that there was
Oh.
another question.
Do I
You
put
have
my
a,
hand
you have a
up?
real quick
Okay.
question?
Yes.
And who are you? You don't have your name on screen.
I'm sorry, Nina Rudolph.
Okay.
And I live at 951 Ocean. And my question to you is, what is the power of the council as far as zoning? I think one of the problems that you're having as to why this guy came in and bought these and used this sort of loophole is that the zoning is so strict in Santa Monica, and you don't have the ability to build something that's nice and proper. And so they have to use these loopholes in order to do something like this that should never happen. So what is the power of the council? Do they have the power to change zoning and to approve architectural buildings and that type of thing to encourage proper developers to come in and buy a luxury and build a beautiful building that should be in Santa Monica?
No, that's a great question. Ultimately, land use is one of the most powerful authorities that a city has, that the city council has, is to really coordinate land use planning through zoning code updates and the general plan. What's challenging over the course of the last decade, the state has gradually eroded a lot of that local ability to set rules for what land use authorities the city has. And they've preempted the council, not just our council, but councils all across the state, from making certain zoning related decisions. And I assume you're referencing the facility at 413 and 825 Ocean.
And all of the areas on Ocean, there are some buildings. A lot of the buildings there are dilapidated and in distress, but it doesn't encourage any developer to come in and buy those units and redevelop them and make a beautiful building, which is what should be on that on Ocean Avenue, because they can't. You have to put the same size windows in. There's so many rules and regulations that it discourages people to actually come in and put their money into something that should be valuable for all of Santa Monica.
Mm-hmm. There's certainly base land use related restrictions. It relates to height, setbacks.
That's no problem. Of course, everybody should have that.
Mm-hmm. So those are some of the development related restrictions the city has. But ultimately, it falls to the property owner what they want to do with the particular property.
But no. There are so many rules and regulations. It doesn't allow that. So who does the council have the ability, if people come in and you have an architectural review board or whatever it is, and they come in and they properly show we're not increasing the height, we're actually decreasing the amount of people coming in, but your real estate taxes, everything, it's so beneficial to Santa Monica. But but I don't want to have a 2x4 window. I want to have a 10x12 window in there, and I would like to put a balcony outside, and they don't allow you to do that. So it discourages people to put money into an area that you should be putting money into.
Can we move on to the topic at hand,
Yep.
please?
Yeah.
No, this is all part of it because I think this is why this guy did this.
Well, no, that's just speculation, but these are all private properties and people can do with them what they want. If they want to build beautiful luxury apartments, that's their choice. And there are many variations on how you can make a beautiful apartment building in Santa Monica, and you could look around and see that. But Oliver, thank you again for being here. Appreciate it. And let's stay in touch.
For sure. Thank you.
So we are going to move on to our discussion of and Oliver, you're welcome to stay for this too, because it may come back around to you. The discussion of the new facility coming in at 413 Ocean Avenue, particularly, which is in NOMA. There is another sister facility down the road on Ocean Avenue in the 800 block. We have several representatives from St. Joseph's Center. They are the program managers for this new facility. We have Dr. Ryan Smith, who is the president and CEO of St. Joseph's Center, Lori Kraft, Joey Richardson, and some other members of their staff. We also have multiple people from the LA County Department of Mental Health, who are the group that is funding this program. Including Dr. Curly Bonds, Latina Jackson, Maria Funk, Karen Bernstein, and a host of others. I want to just start by saying whatever your views are on this particular facility, I want us to keep in mind that the work that these people do, that they've dedicated their lives and careers to, is exceptional. And they deal with some of the most vulnerable, challenging members of our community, the unhoused, the mentally challenged, the drug addicted. It's work that is incredibly difficult. We owe them a huge amount of thanks and gratitude and the utmost respect for what they do. So I know that people are frustrated, afraid, have all these issues with this facility, but I want to keep that in mind as this discussion goes forward. So, Dr. Smith, I'm going to turn it over to you and your team. You're going to do a presentation on the facility that will hopefully answer a lot of the questions that people have, and then we will get to some Q&A.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you so much, Bruce, and the group for providing us an opportunity to speak. We know there's a lot of questions, so we're hoping that the presentation will answer many of those questions, and we will stay around for a Q&A session afterwards. We want to start with introductions and then go into the presentation. So I will just really quickly introduce the folks from the St. Joseph Center team. Then I will hand the mic to our supervisory district team, and then the folks who are here from the LA County Department of Mental Health. So my name is Dr. Ryan Smith, and I serve as president and CEO of the St. Joseph Center, and it's a pleasure to meet you all. And I will pass the mic to Lori Kraft.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lori Kraft, and I serve as the Chief Program Officer for St. Joseph Center. And I will kick it over to Maya.
Good evening, everyone. Maya Eaglin. I serve as the Assistant Vice President of Programs with St. Joseph Center. And I will pass it to Joy.
Hi, my name is Joy Richardson, and I serve as the Vice President of External Affairs and Communications. And I will kick it over to Mandy.
I'm Mandy Summers. I serve as another Assistant Vice President of Programs.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I will then hand the mic to our partners at SD3. Maybe I'll start with Amy Perkins.
Hi, thanks so much, Dr. Smith. Good evening, everyone. I'm Amy Perkins. I am the Senior Deputy over Housing and Homelessness for Supervisor Horvath here in SD3. Dr. Smith, I'm not sure there's anyone else yet from our team who's joined.
Perfect. Thank you, Amy. And then I will pass the mic to our partners at the LA County Department of Mental Health. Maybe I'll start with Latina.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Latina Jackson. I'm Deputy Director over the Countywide Engagement Division with the Department of Mental Health. and I will pass it to my colleague, Dr. Funk.
Hi, everyone. I'm Maria Funk, and I'm the Deputy Director of our Housing and Job Development Division at the Department of Mental Health. And it's my team that oversees our interim housing program, which is what these two sites will be. And then I also have 3 other people on the call from my team who will be directly working with St. Joseph Center, Karen Bernstein, Jessica Roberts, and Charles Quent. And so I will not have them all introduce themselves in the interest of time, but I will turn it over to Dr. Curly Bonds.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Curly Bonds. I'm a psychiatrist and the Chief Medical Officer for the LA County Department of Mental Health. And I think that wraps it up for our team. Unless I'm mistaken, I'll hand it back to Dr. Smith.
So again, our presentation, once again, I know there's questions in the chat. We're asking folks if we can hold questions to the end of the presentation. So, we'll go to the next slide. St. Joseph Center, many of you may be familiar. We are actually celebrating our 50th year anniversary supporting the community. We started in 1976 in Venice, actually through the Sisters of St. Joseph Carondelet, who opened a storefront in Venice and rented a red truck in order to support particularly immigrant families and those experiencing homelessness to receive resources. And 50 years later, we continue the good work. And many of you may have engaged in volunteer opportunities, et cetera, but we're really excited to do the work. A little bit about myself. I serve as president and CEO of the organization. I grew up not too far away from Santa Monica in Culver City. I actually experienced homelessness as a youth in Culver City. It was because of neighbors and folks who surrounded me that I was able to graduate Culver City Unified when I was experiencing housing insecurity, and to go to UCLA both undergrad and graduate. And it's the reason I do this work is to really give back to the folks who gave to me. And I'm really grateful for that and really grateful for the work that we do. We'll go to the next slide. So we're going to talk a little bit about the programmatic work, but I've seen a lot of questions about timelines. So we thought we would just answer the questions about timeline. So a couple things. One, so in February, we were awarded the grant from the state and the LA County Department of Mental Health for this interim housing program. In March, we met with members of the City of Santa Monica's Housing and Human Services team to discuss receiving the award and outline the next steps for collaboration. In April, we sent correspondence to the Santa Monica Interim City Manager, administrative staff, to coordinate meetings with the mayor and city council regarding the center. In June, we hosted site visits and briefings with former Chief of Police Bautista and about 15 members of the Santa Monica Police Department and members of the city's Housing and Human Services team. In June, we also conducted round 1 of briefings with Santa Monica City Council members. 2 council members participated in that meeting. And then we followed up with the city officials who were unavailable or unresponsive to the initial meeting. In July, we hosted round 2 of briefings with Santa Monica City Council members. So 3 city members participated. And then we conducted individual briefings with Santa Monica community leaders. In August, we followed up with remaining city officials who did not respond to previous requests. And we conducted individual briefings with continued meetings with Santa Monica community leaders. And then in September, we hosted our last briefing with the Santa Monica mayor. So that gives you a sense of the timeline. I'm going to hand it to my colleague, Lori, to talk a little bit more about programmatically what's involved with the new center. Lori.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. So before I jump into my part of the presentation, I just want to briefly share that although I've been with St. Joseph Center for the last 18 months, I do have 17 years of experience working in homeless services. Previously, I helped co-found another homeless services organization, and I've had the opportunity to manage over 30 interim housing sites over the course of my career. So my hope is that this part of the presentation will provide some clarity around the Santa Monica Behavioral Health Wellness Center. So let's jump in. Why the center is our first slide here. So we're opening the center in alignment with the city's commitment to addressing local needs. Santa Monica residents will be prioritized for all available units. The center represents a major step toward ensuring that the community members experiencing homelessness and living with behavioral health challenges can access care and stability, reducing visible homelessness and strengthening the Santa Monica community. So I want to emphasize here that this is a local solution for members of the Santa Monica community that are experiencing homelessness. Next slide, please.
Question?
So I think we're taking questions at the end, correct?
Yes.
Yep. So a brief project overview. So the
I'm so sorry to interrupt, but you're saying questions at the end, but we've been waiting an hour to be able to ask the questions.
I'm sorry, but we have, if you looked at our agenda, we were not starting this until 7:45.
Bruce, shut up. No, Bruce.
I'm on board with this. This does not work.
Guys, we said we were starting this at 7:45.
Bruce, you clearly have an agenda. Let people ask questions. We're really not interested in this propaganda. Let people ask questions.
We will.
are done with you. We are done with you.
Chris,
I totally agree. We need to ask questions.
A lot of the questions.
We have questions. We were never sought out.
Guys, hold
on.
on.
How did this happen?
Bruce, we're not listening to you anymore, man. You're losing control of the meeting.
All right, guys, let's give them 10 minutes to finish the presentation.
Let people ask. You're losing
10
control.
minutes to finish the presentation, and then we'll ask questions. Okay?
Let them do the presentation because it'll answer a lot of the questions, Chris.
No, it won't. It's bullshit.
Chris, give us a few minutes. My God.
No, we've given you an hour, Bruce.
No,
this is not okay. Bruce, enough.
This started at 7:45.
You have your own premise. I have mine.
Enough.
Let's give them 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll all ask.
Guys, if you can't settle it down and give them the courtesy of presenting their plan,
we're not interested in their presentation.
Then we'll just have to cancel. We'll just have to end the meeting if you can't give them the time to make their presentation.
Guys, please, let's
finish the meeting. Courtesy to the neighborhood.
We're going to get to that.
No,
give us a few minutes.
The courtesy to the neighborhood. I agree.
There's been no courtesy. It's like being mugged. 100%.
Okay. You're going to have a chance to say that, but let them explain what the program is before you jump down their throats. Guys, we can't have a meeting if this is how everybody's going to be. If everybody's going to talk
to the city manager about how they let this happen.
We are going to hear from all of you, get your questions, and get some answers, but you have to let them finish.
Manager? This is not about hearing their presentation.
Well, that's their plan for this evening. So if you don't want to be part of it, then you can leave.
I don't agree.
It's not your meeting. Do you ever come to NOMA meetings? I don't even know who you are. So let's let them do their presentation, and then we will ask questions. Okay? If we can't do that, then we're gonna end the meeting.
Understand that it's propaganda.
Chris, that's your opinion. That's fine.
Propaganda. No, it's propaganda. I'm just saying that. Everybody knows it, and
Great. We got it. It's propaganda. We got it. We got it, Chris. Thank you. I'm sorry, Dr. Smith and company. Please continue your presentation.
Thank you, Bruce. So the brief project overview is that the Santa Monica Behavioral Health Wellness Center is converting 2 long vacant senior housing buildings into 49 units of supportive interim housing that will have comprehensive behavioral health services incorporated. So the locations are 413 and 825 Ocean Boulevard, serving 29 and 20 residents respectively. 413 will have 29 residents, 825, 20. Each are have private rooms designed to promote stability and dignity. And again, this is in alignment with the city's commitment to addressing local needs. Santa Monica residents will be prioritized. Next slide, please, Nikki. Okay, this is an area I wanted to just really focus on for a second. And we will have an enhanced care staffing model that is significant. The center has an enhanced care staffing model that exceeds standard levels of care and represents the most comprehensive level of services offered at any site serving people experiencing homelessness in Santa Monica. I want to emphasize this because in all my years of operating or managing interim housing, I've never operated sites that have this level of care, of clinical care, of enhanced care. It really is a model that we believe is going to be successful in assisting the participants that will be staying at both 825 and 413. Next slide, please. So this is an example, or this is the different staffing positions that we're going to have incorporated into the facility. So aside from a program manager, case managers, resident monitors that care for folks, we also have mental health clinicians that will be working with folks on the clinical pieces of their care, occupational therapists that are going to help with daily living and basic self-care skills, licensed vocational nurses that will conduct health assessments and help navigate healthcare systems, substance use counselors that will work on treatment plans, well-being and recovery, peer support specialists that will establish trust and connection and work with clients to assist with engagement and work collaboratively with the care team as well. And then the housing navigator, important position that's going to help develop housing plans, assist with housing applications, and facilitate move-ins to permanent housing, which is the goal of this program, is ultimately to connect these folks to a permanent resource, to permanent housing.
Can you clarify the address location you mentioned?
Yes.
It's not on a computer.
Yes, 413 and 825 Ocean Avenue.
Okay, so, but your slide said Ocean Boulevard.
Okay, that may have been a typo.
It's clear that none of them live here or have been in our community.
Okay. If we get into this again, you're going to have to start throwing people out of the meeting. I'm sorry. Just let them finish the presentation, please.
Next slide, Nikki. Thank you. So program details. So there are a lot of services that are going to be provided on site. We have 3 meals a day, access to laundry facilities at the sites, daily health and wellness checks, which are really important, bi-weekly habitability checks, weekly case management, housing navigation, peer support. There'll be group activities that will be held internally at the site, and then ongoing assessments from the care team. Next slide, please. So the next couple slides address the security for the site. So we will have quiet hours that will take place between 9 p.m. and 7 p.m. every day. They will be enforced by our staff and the security team. We have a contracted professional security company that will provide 24/7 coverage at the sites. Security and staff will regularly monitor and control the entry and exit points. Transportation is going to be coordinated by our security team and staff to ensure that the residents can safely travel to and from appointments, errands, activities, etc. So we will have a van designated for each site to be able to transport people to wherever they need to go. There will be regular patrols conducted by staff and security around the property. We also have a monitoring system, a surveillance system, and alarm systems. And then security is going to be conducting bag checks each time a participant enters the property to ensure that no prohibited items are coming in and out. Next slide, please. So the professional security company will also ensure that only participants enter the premises. We will not be allowing guests. The team will maintain direct coordination with the Santa Monica Police and Fire Departments for emergency and crisis response should that come up. Our internal safety team will conduct multiple safety rounds throughout the night to provide additional security for the site and the surrounding community. There is a brand new surveillance system that's been added to each site for maximum security. The sites will not be accepting any registered sex offenders. They are not allowed to participate. And our outreach teams are also going to be supporting with outreach in the surrounding communities. Next slide, please. This slide addresses the code of conduct and accountability. So each of the residents are going to sign a good neighbor policy that outlines expectations for conduct, safety, and community respect. They must comply with the code of conduct. So in addition to the good neighbor policy, we also have a code of conduct. If they do not adhere to the code of conduct, we'll work with the Department of Mental Health to talk about relocation if these locations are not suitable or not the right placement. And then our staff will host monthly participant meetings to review and to reinforce our good neighbor policy and the code of conduct. Next slide, please. So we have some operational protocols. We're going to work to ensure that the integrity of each building and surrounding environment is maintained and clean. So front of the property and sidewalk area and sides and all of that. There'll be no smoking allowed on either of the premises. Maintenance and repairs will happen in partnership with the owner and the developer. The daily exterior and interior facility cleaning will take place. We're also going to monitor alleyways, streets, and external spaces connected to the two sites. Those will also be prioritized in the operational protocols. Next slide, please. All right, I believe I'm turning it over here to Dr. Smith.
I'm going to talk a little bit about how we will go about ongoing communication with the community. So we will have a monthly community forum advertised online and open to all interested residents. These meetings will share progress updates, address concerns, and ensure transparency as the center becomes operational. We will host a meeting next week on Thursday in Santa Monica. All of that will be in person. That all of you will be invited to attend. We do have a dedicated 24/7 phone line that will be available and supported, which will live answering service. In the event of emergency, the operator will immediately contact designated individuals. Obviously, in an event of emergency, we are engaging with Santa Monica Police and Fire and our other partners in order to ensure that we are serving the community. We do have an email listserv to receive project updates and invitations for these community forums, which we'll share in a second with you all as well. So next slide. So this is the 24-hour phone number that will be connected to the center. There's an email that's specifically for the center. And then if you would like to be added to the community listserv, you can either scan the QR code or you can, we'll put a link in the chat where you can put in your information as well. And we will transition to questions.
Thank you all for letting them get through their presentation, and we're going to move on to questions. My first one is that obviously Dr. Smith and the county representatives, no one reached out to the community, and that was a critical error. I'm getting feedback for some reason. Hold on. Why was nobody informed about this? Why, it's even, I think, let me see here. There's a SB 326, which, says that residents and the community need to be informed about these facilities. Why are we just finding out about it a week out? And where was the ball dropped there? And this meeting only happened because I happened to hear about this last week and invited you guys. So obviously there's a tremendous amount of pent up anger and fear. And because nobody explained this to the community ahead of time or worked with us or heard people's voices, what happened?
Anything you say, because
I can take that question. So we completely understand your frustration. While our understanding was this project did not require a formal public notice, we know that any program operating in the neighborhood deserves clear and timely communication. That's why we're here today. And we will continue meetings with community stakeholders in the coming weeks and months, including the meeting that we will hold next week as well.
Will you be treating people with criminal records?
If you want to ask a question, please put your hand up and I will call on you.
My hand's up. I guess you can't see it.
Well, you need to, there's a symbol on your thing. So
I want to, just most people don't believe, frankly, at this point, My hand's up. We don't believe you. Oh, well, we didn't know.
Okay, so Chris, I didn't call on you. If you could at least have the courtesy to go by some decorum so we can get through this, I would really appreciate it. I would like to call on Mayor Negretti, who has asked to speak to the group, and she may take the floor.
Hi, sorry. So I just want to start by saying to everybody, hello. I'll skip all the introductions. I think everyone's eagerly waiting to talk about the nuts and bolts. And I want to clarify, Ryan, at the beginning when you went through the information. So we were invited on a tour. I can't speak for all the council members that are here on the call. Maybe they'll chime in. I went on a tour in September at the end of the month for the Roses and Bread location, which is a restaurant on Rose Avenue, which is great, that does a program there that's in Venice, and at their headquarters. I was not aware of a project going on 413 or 825 Ocean Avenue. So I want to make that very clear, because when I found out about those projects, it was through the email update from our city manager, Oliver Chi. And then I immediately, within 12 hours, shared that in my update through my social media and my newsletter. So I want to be clear, because although that people are saying that's not the focus, I think it is the focus, and I'll just want to say why. This process that comes about, whether you guys were discussing permits with the city staff, I don't know, but I think it's important that as the city of Santa Monica, we figure out where the gaps in communication were internally, because then we can fix them, and we shouldn't hide behind them. So if planning or anybody else had knowledge of this project, it should have, maybe they felt that they didn't need to inform us because we get these projects that don't often go through, but we should be notified of these types of projects because they are sensitive. And I don't think anyone here disagrees that we need to have facilities like this. I think the issue is, and I want to make it clear to St. Joseph's, I think you guys are doing great work with minimal, finances and opportunity from the state and county. You're working with what you got. This isn't an attack on you. At least I'm saying that for myself. I visited your facility and you guys gave me a tour of the history and showed me the slides that you're showing here about what you're doing, not about that program, but what you guys do as an organization. The issue is, instead of coming out to the community up front and letting them know that, hey, this is what's happening, it doesn't give them the opportunity to digest the program, and it doesn't relieve their fears, because the only programs we've seen in the city thus far, I live by 3 of them, everybody. I want you to know that nobody did a story, nobody reached out. And when I was told about the Palms Motel facility that's 3 blocks from my place and where my kids get off the bus and walk, I live near the Manor, I live near the Laurel. There's 3. Nobody discussed anything. And I understand the frustration that you all feel, but I want you to know that nobody had a town hall for us. And so that's why I brought it out, because I know that as scary as it is for the folks at St. Joseph's to hear everybody yelling at them and mad at them, this is a multi-layered issue that we all need to really strategically understand if we want to change the process in which these things happen. So to be clear, we can discuss how it happened internally with Santa Monica, but it is important that St. Joseph's, you're coming out now. I think the frustration is you didn't come out before the project was set to open. And I don't even know myself as the mayor what the date is that either of these facilities are opening. There's confusion around addresses. 413, and then we hear 425, but 425 is not an address. So I would love to clarify that. 825 looks like it's occupied or maybe not. So there's confusion about whether or not that's opening later. Is there 50 beds in one location, or are the 50 beds spread out between the 2 locations? And then when we talk about security in the plan, I think because it's not a locked facility, people are concerned about what I took photos yesterday is by the Manor, people congregate that live in the building outside. When people walk to the park or walk to get food or to eat, they often engage with folks on the street. And that is the concern that I think folks are wondering, because when it was a memory care facility, folks often got lost and meandered into the neighborhood. And so they want to know, if these folks get lost and meander into the neighborhood, who is going to be helping? Because it's different from walking back to the facility, Grandma Betty Sue, who's lost her way, than somebody who's experiencing schizophrenia. I can't speak for everyone, but I imagine that that is some of the questions and concerns that people have. And I just want to say to everyone as a group, we cannot demonize folks for having these concerns because they're real. We have to validate them. And by the way, someone's saying stop mentioning the Manor. I know the Manor is separate. The Laurel is separate, and so is Palms Motel. I live by all three of them, but they all have different types of issues that impact the neighborhood. And all I will say is from my own experience, and those have nothing to do with St. Joseph's, that's just what we see as neighbors as it pertains to these types of interim housing. So the Manor is shutting down, and those residents are going to other facilities in Los Angeles. But what we've seen with these other facilities is that the number to call when there's an issue isn't always responsive, or that the congregating of individuals happens outside the facility, and that the security guards aren't really there to tell them you can't hang out outside. They're there to mitigate issues of violence or crime or loudness. So if you guys could touch just really real on those issues and not take offense in this conversation, because we have to have it. It might be uncomfortable, and we're going to just have to have these conversations. Please also address how you were approached with this property, where the funding came from. People would like to know. Some people want to know how much. Who gets selected? And describe to us, please, if you don't mind, who is considered a resident of Santa Monica that gets a bed, and how long you think this project will be here? Because the owner, Leo, texted me and said something about him entitling these buildings for something else. So I'm curious to know, is this a 5-year project? Is your funding for 10 years, 2 years? So if you could answer those really serious questions about the security, the funding, and the step-by-step process, I think that might help. And then people probably have other questions after that.
Great. Thank you. Dr. Smith?
Yeah, there were a number of questions, Mayor, there. So I'm going to try to take them one by one. First, I believe you had a question about addresses. Lori, can you once again repeat the addresses and the number of beds at each address?
Sure. The addresses are 413 and 825 Ocean Avenue. 413 will have a total of 29 individuals, participants. 825 will have a total of 20.
Thank you for that. Also, I believe council that you had a question specifically about security. So if we can just talk once again, Lori, if you can remind us the
Also,
security.
sorry, what's the date that they're opening? Like, when are they actually opening? At the same time, different times, or?
Yeah, so the goal is to open 413 within this month, within the next couple of weeks, and 825 sometime in the near future. It would not open within the next couple of weeks. So 413 within the next couple of weeks.
And will you be starting with a slow rollout, or will it be a full complement of residents, or how does that work?
Lori, do you mention you want to talk a little bit about the referral process and how we're planning on rolling out the program 413 first?
Sure, and DMH, please jump in if you have anything additional to add. But referrals will begin the day we are slated to open. As Dr. Ryan said, we're hoping that'll be within the next couple weeks for 413. DMH has a referral list. My understanding is prepared. And again, Santa Monica residents are going to be prioritized. And we will stagger intakes. We can't take 29 folks on the first day. So we'll work.
How do you qualify as Santa Monica resident?
We'll take intakes and we'll stagger them throughout until we're at capacity of the 29 beds for 413 and 20 for 825 when it opens.
And her question, how do you determine it's a resident of Santa Monica?
That's a really important question.
Dr. Funk, I'm going to let you jump in on that screening process.
Okay, great. Hi everyone, Maria Funk, Department of Mental Health. I'll answer a couple of questions that came up. One is, what is the funding source? And then I'll get to the resident issue. So the funding source is Behavioral Health Bridge Housing. The Department of Mental Health received a grant from the state for this funding, and the funding is for short to midterm housing. And we decided that we would use our funding to expand and redesign our current interim housing across the county. We know that homelessness is a county-wide issue. So one of our goals was to make sure that we had interim housing in all parts of the county, so we could serve the people that were in each what we call service planning areas of the county. So we have been in conversations with the city, and I think we will have to work with them to really determine what does it mean to be a resident of Santa Monica. I mean, what it means to me is that people, when there's usually our referrals come from outreach teams, and Latina Jackson is on the call, and she has a team that's called the Home Team. It's a Department of Mental Health team that does outreach for to people with serious mental illness. And I know that I believe the city of Santa Monica also has a contract with the People Concerned to do outreach in the city of Santa Monica. So we have been in conversations with them about working with the existing teams that are in Santa Monica doing outreach, you know, on the beaches, on the streets, with and for people that have serious mental illness. Our population is people with serious mental illness. So that is what is unique about this shelter. Of course, they're also unhoused. In terms of prioritizing, what does that mean? It means that if we get, you know, multiple referrals and we only have one bed and one of them is from the area of Santa Monica, then that's the one that we will house. And so that's what we mean. And we've been in discussions. So we will continue to work with the city of Santa Monica to refine how we're determining whether people are truly from the Santa Monica area, which I know is tricky because obviously people move, especially when they're unhoused.
I think there's a lot of confusion about, and I promise I'm getting to the questions. I see the hands raised, and I appreciate your patience. Could you guys explain a little bit about how a location gets chosen and why this location was the appropriate place for this kind of facility? Because I think for residents, it seems like a mismatch that it shouldn't be in a residential neighborhood like this.
Yes.
Lori, if you could talk a little bit about how we were approached, these two facilities in particular.
Sure. So we were approached by a developer who said that he had these two facilities on Ocean Avenue. He suggested that he was aware of the Behavioral Health Bridge Housing Program and funding, and felt that they would potentially be a good fit for what the program is. And that was the point at which we evaluated and submitted a joint application to the Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health for this particular funding.
Mm-hmm. And I'll just add, it was a competitive solicitation that we did, a request for applications. And so St. Joseph was chosen, their application, because they scored the highest in their area, and they were awarded funding. And also, I just want to say that we are committed to working with St. Joseph Center to make sure that this is a quality site. We do contract monitoring. We're in constant contact with our operators. We go out and do regular site visits. We respond to concerns from the residents, from the community about the site. So we are committed to making sure that this is a quality facility. But ultimately, our job and our funding is to reduce homelessness. And by creating shelters, interim housing, places to bring people inside to help them get the services that they need, that is our ultimate goal of this program.
And so
just to put a finer
in the middle of a residential community with
I don't know who's speaking, but I'll call on you in a second.
Yeah,
so
I just put it in the chat. Look at the video. Look at what these nonprofits.
Okay, Chris, hold on. So just to be clear, just to be clear, it's not like you had a variety of places to choose. Someone came to you and said, "Here's the place that."
Look at the chat.
I can't look at the chat. I'm looking at
So
300
what if
things at once.
two more developers come and they want to make a whole?
Okay, so I'll go to the hands that are raised. Ashley Olson.
But to your point, Bruce, we saw this as a significant opportunity because within Santa Monica community, there are a lack of
Why is he
facilities
able
for
to
people
chat while
experiencing
others aren't out of
homelessness.
turn?
So I just wanted to answer the question around the why of the project, but I know you're going to go to the next question.
I'm just saying,
Thanks,
be consistent.
Ashley.
Be consistent, Bruce.
What?
Get off the line, Chris.
Yeah, Chris, you're just really disruptive. Ashley, please.
So
I have a couple questions. I'm going to try to just pack them all in real quick. But so am I clear when you don't know how the different patients are going to be, like you don't have a defined filtering system of who these patients will be and how they come to you? It's going to be a referral service for people who are like on the ground assessing people on what's going on is one question. Two, are you running criminal background checks on them and drug testing in the facility? Also, what's the plan length of stay for these patients? Do these programs run a specific length of time? Are patients allowed to check themselves in and out? Like, is this considered involuntary or voluntary psychiatric care? Are 5150s patients involuntary psychiatric care going to be at this facility? I know from my own experience on a Sunday afternoon in Palisades Park, there's hundreds of babies and kids all listening to music and hanging out. It's a huge community event. How are we going to be protecting our community when we have people that are clearly suffering from mental illness in our community? We've all seen it. We've all experienced it almost on a daily basis, but yet our police aren't allowed to really intervene unless the situation is ramped up to escalated to a certain state, and still we see very little intervening. So how are you going to guarantee that we're going to have the protection, the safety, the security when we already don't have that here for these kind of issues? So I just want to understand better, if our police are already underfunded, struggling to enforce the crime we have, how the resources on the police department are going to be able to keep up with any additional activity that goes on in our community.
Great questions. Thank you, Ashley. So just to start with, can you talk about how people are picked for the program and what kind of issues they'll be dealing with and the 5150 of it all, the background checks, all those things?
Yes, Dr. Funk? Yes, please.
Sure. Okay. These are all really important questions. We definitely hear the concerns of the community. So this is not a licensed facility. It's not a hospital. It is a shelter for people who are unhoused. So this is not a place where someone who's on a 5150 would be taken. That's where someone on a 5150 would be taken to a hospital. So the way our interim
is this a
program,
homeless shelter? Is this more of a homeless shelter or a homeless shelter? So
a homeless shelter. We call them interim housing across, the county, but it is a homeless shelter for people that are unhoused with serious mental illness. We get our referrals from, DMH is the mental health plan. We provide specialty mental health services to people with mental illness. We serve over 250,000 clients a year. Many of our clients are homeless and working already and getting services and treatment from our mental health system. So most of our referrals come from our programs that are providing services to people with mental illness. We also have teams, as I mentioned earlier, that are out on the streets, outreaching to people, the people that you mentioned that are, in the parks and at the beaches that you see that have schizophrenia and other serious mental illnesses. They are outreaching and they are trying to engage people so they can bring them inside and bring them into this shelter where we can then help them and help them make sure that they're getting the services, getting the treatment, the mental health treatment they need. And we also, someone asked about how long people will be there. Our goal for our interim housing is to help people transition into permanent housing. And we have direct links. And we have at DMH and across the county, not just at DMH, but we have a wide range of what we call permanent supportive housing, apartments with supportive services for people to move to. So we do a lot of work to try to make sure that people in our shelters are getting connected to permanent housing so they can move out of the shelter and get into a home. And so then they're off the street, hopefully for a very long period of time. That is our goal of our program. We do not do drug testing. We do not do criminal background checks. Our shelters need to be low barrier so we can, again, so people can want to come off the streets and get into the shelter. We will make sure, as Lori said, we will not have registered sex offenders at the site. So that is something that we do make sure, and that is a requirement when any shelters are close to schools. That is a requirement that we follow.
If you're not doing background checks, how do you know they're not sex offenders?
That is a great question. So we work with the case managers to make sure that the clients are not registered sex offenders. So that is how we make sure.
And can I chime in a little bit?
Hold on.
Yeah.
You can't all just jump in. Elizabeth Lehrer.
Hi. So I'm wondering if sobriety is a requirement, and first answer that question, then I have a follow-up.
Sobriety is not a requirement. However, people are not allowed to use any illegal substances on site, and any decisions made about if someone needs to exit a site are based on their behavior. So if someone, is under the influence and is becoming violent or something like that, then that could result in the person being asked to leave, but it's not because specifically that they're on drugs. And also my team just let me know that the facility is the one that will check the RSO, the Registered Sex Offender Registry, to make sure that someone is not an RSO. So anyway,
so people could go, so people in your facility could leave and unsupervised, go to the park where there will be drug dealers ready for the customers newly in, your facilities. What prevents that?
I can go ahead and jump in there. So we have an entry-exit policy. So as I mentioned, we have a van that's going to be assigned to each site. We've developed a schedule. We're going to work with participants through the code of conduct, the good neighbor policy, and through care team, just regular conversation about adhering to the guidelines of ensuring that if they want to leave the site, if they have errands to do, if they want to go to an appointment, et cetera, things like that, they will be accompanied by staff on the van. The van will take them. For activities such as walks and things like that, that's the reason why we have this robust staffing model. We'll have an occupational therapist and other clinical staff that will be able to be monitoring. And say, for example, a group of folks want to go for a walk. They would be with one of the OTs for an event such as that. We have our professional security company that is going to be stationed in the very front of the facility. We've asked them to monitor the front, around the perimeter of the property, and that includes across Ocean Avenue onto the Palisades Park area. So they will be monitoring as well. Our participants will sign in and out. And so regardless of whether they're going to go in the van, they still have to sign in and out. And part of that sign in and out, sign out will be letting us know where they're going and what's happening. We're going to closely monitor where folks are at, because we hear you, security is important. Our goal, we want to make sure that the residents in the local community and in the neighborhood feel safe and are safe.
So, but they could leave and go get drugs, take the drugs and get an ocean view while they're at it, and then come back. Is that correct?
So again, what we're going to do is work with the participants to make sure that they're utilizing the transportation services. For participants who may have substance use, that is why we have a substance use disorder counselor at the site to make sure that we're addressing that. We have some very close collaborative partnerships with Claire Matrix, as well as with Tarzana Treatment Centers. In addition to that, we do 3 wellness checks a day. So it's 3 different times throughout the day. Our resident monitors and our care team are checking on staff, on participants to see how they're doing. They're trained in being able to know whether somebody is under the influence or not. And that's where the interventions will come in with a substance use counselor.
Yay.
We'll do the habitability checks. Part of the reason for the habitability checks is for us to be able to monitor whether or not there's any kind of drug paraphernalia. They're looking for all those things. We have checklists. Again, we operate a lot of interim housing. And I just want to point out that while this particular program has some the criteria is very specific, serious mental illness and substance use is not uncommon among the unhoused population. So we have participants all throughout our portfolio of interim housing that are dealing with serious mental health and have substance use. And so this work is not unfamiliar to us. We're used to working with participants that have these issues, and we run very structured programs wherever our sites are located.
Can I ask you a question?
Okay. I'll call on the next person, which Matt Goldenberg.
Thank you, Bruce. I really appreciate you setting up this meeting at late minute notice and getting everyone involved. I'm going to make a quick comment and I'm going to ask a question. The comment is that I think I speak on behalf of many people in the community that we all very much care about those with major mental illness, those with substance use disorders, and I don't think any of us are unfamiliar with this population as well. They're all over the city. Prop 1 was just passed, and the majority of Californians and Santa Monicans want our unhoused community, the majority of which have major mental illness and substance use disorders, to get the help they need. But I think what you're hearing from our community is we are afraid for our children. We're afraid for our families and elderly family members, for ourselves, putting this in the midst of our homes, right next to schools, next to, we have fewer parks in any part of LA, and we're putting it right next to Palisades Park. And so I want to ask that those of you who are on this call and are decision makers really reconsider, because this community cares about this population, but what you're doing here is, I think, a travesty. My question is really for Dr. Curly Bonds. My question is this: it was mentioned about Tarzana Treatment Center, Claire Matrix, the idea that this population needs not only housing, but they need services. There is very few public transportation in this area. There's no grocery stores that are walking. This is a really isolated area for somebody with major mental illness and substance use disorders to navigate. And so when you're considering sites for those with major mental illness and substance use disorders, what type of criteria do you use? And would you not take into account the fact that there is not public transportation for these folks? Tarzana Treatment Center, Claire Matrix are far. I understand there's vans, but what criteria is used to evaluate clinically where you would place these individuals, and why are there not other sites within LA County that are closer to the services that these individuals need in order to have their mental illness treated and to get them out of temporary housing?
Well, thank you, Dr. Goldenberg. I think you speak to a lot of the concerns that other residents in the area have. I'd have to say that in terms of the location, I'm not involved directly as the medical director. I'm really involved in the care and treatment of people. So I defer to Dr. Funk and others on the call who are involved with locating and siting facilities. But in terms of transportation, what I understand is that many of the individuals that come into this facility will already be linked to services. They'll have care providers. In fact, that's where many of the referrals will come from. Lori and others might have more information about how we site those. And Dr. Funk is probably the best expert on that.
Yeah, I'll say from the solicitation perspective that we did not require that the sites that were chosen be close to transportation, and I think you mentioned grocery stores, et cetera. We do that when it is permanent supportive housing, when it's apartments where people, need to get groceries, and we want to make sure that they're close to transportation so they can, be part of their community and get to where they need to go if they don't have cars. Because this is interim housing, the interim housing site provides food for them. And they're, as Lori mentioned, they're going to help provide transportation. And so, those were not specific considerations as it related to this. But the treatment, as Dr. Bonds mentioned, that most of these people are already in treatment. There are some mental health providers in the area. I know there's Step Up on 2nd Street. Of course, St. Joseph Center is providing services to people concerned. So even though there might not be clinics that have like a building right in Santa Monica, there are teams that are field-based, that DMH is funding field-based teams to provide field-based services to people across the county and across the west side. And then I don't know if anyone from St. Joseph Center wants to add to that.
Well, can I add to that a little bit, Maria? Because it does speak to the question about how people are identified and the question about residents and the city of Santa Monica. So that very piece that Dr. Funk and Dr. Bonds just spoke about, particularly the coordinated outreach that occurs throughout LA County, there are dedicated teams that serve the Santa Monica area with St. Joseph's, with the people concerned, and with the Department of Mental Health's home teams. And we have individuals in the Santa Monica area that we work with on a regular basis. So they are known to the teams. They work with those individuals every day, and they are part of the list. I imagine that was delivered to Dr. Funk's team and to St. Joseph's about potential residents that will occupy the facility. So that those individuals that are going into this residence are served both internally while they're in the residence and externally with service providers and who can support them with medical appointments, or if they need to get, personal hygiene products, groceries, etc. And as Lori was speaking to, providing transportation for community outings, providing escorts when people need to, be in the community in some way. So I would say that there's sort of a double layer of support, both within the housing structure itself, the interim housing structure itself, and in the community. And the other thing I wanted to mention is just this notion of interim housing. Is I just want to make that distinction, because it is a form of short-term housing. But I think the great part about interim housing, particularly at this site, is you're not having like a shelter where people line up every day and are coming into the site, and you have people rotating in and out every single night. People you don't know that are coming to get shelter for the night. And interim housing, what the distinction with interim housing is, these are individuals who are known. They have a bed at that facility for the duration until they get permanently housed. They have a bed in that facility, and they come back to that bed. That bed is reserved for them. So it's not a group of people that are rotating in and out every night, and it's new people again and again and again. They're known to the outreach teams, they're known to their treatment teams, and they're known to the facility.
Could we tighten up the responses, because there's a lot of questions to be answered?
Sure. Randolph?
Here, I don't want to ask a question right now. I'll go back in the back of the line. Sorry.
No worries. Alex Amirkanian?
Good evening, everybody. I'm a resident of Santa Monica from almost 20 years. I just wanted to make a comment before asking my questions. I want to thank St. Joseph, first of all, for the noble action of what they're doing. I don't particularly agree with the location they have selected. Santa Monica is going through a very tough period, as the city manager stated. We are the home of a lot of people that have lost their homes right now. And this park has become a place of comfort for the community. It's one of the most beautiful places in the city. Children go and play there. there was an elder facility, so we had a lot of elder people around the neighborhood, and I find it hard to believe that, as the city manager stated, with 20 to 30% vacancy in the city, that we couldn't find a better place. So my question to you guys is, what is the price that you're paying for an oceanfront property to house, in particular, 413, 25 beds, and couldn't you house 150 beds if you weren't going in the inland, maybe on Lincoln or on Pico? And the second question that I have that nobody has spoken about this is that I've spoken to police officers on Ocean Avenue, and they couldn't emphasize enough the amount of calls that they get at the manor. So if this is going to be a similar facility, how could we do this to our community that is already excuse me, mute yourself for a second.
Guys, please mute.
How could we do this to our community that is already struggling, as the city manager stated, to bring, a facility that for sure is going to bring crime, is going to bring instability. And as much as we care about the unhoused, we do not want to make a political statement, because this seems to be a political statement to me. So we do not want to use human life as political shield. So thank you for your time, and thank you for letting me ask a question.
Thanks, Alex.
Bruce, before St. Joseph's addresses some of the operational concerns, is it okay if maybe I speak a little bit to the public safety issues that Alex just asked, and which have been pretty replete in this
But
discussion?
it's very important to address the question, how much are you paying? I mean, maybe you don't need to disclose it, but could we afford triple the beds? Because we all have the same goal, We live in Santa Monica because we believe in the values of helping each other. And I would want to see 150 beds on Lincoln or somewhere where it's cheaper, the rent, than on Ocean Avenue, which is clearly triple or quadruple the rent that you would pay anywhere else in the city.
So let's address that first, and then City Manager Chi, I'll turn it over to you. Can someone from the county who probably was involved in the securing of this facility, we don't have to know the number, but what about the idea that this is probably a lot more expensive than putting it somewhere else?
I think we need to know the number.
Well, I'll take this. This is Ryan from St. Joseph Center. I will say that we were actually approached by the developer for the facility. So we are privy to the information that the developer and the owner have as far as quote unquote the number that I think people want to know. And I don't think the development team is actually on the call. So, that is something that we'd have to follow up on.
Who is the developer?
The group is called Hope for an Affordable LA, and they do work in Santa Monica. So it's Hope for Santa Monica. I think there's been, and that group, the developer is Leo Postilnikov. So people have mentioned that name. So he'd be privy to the conversations he's been having with the owner. He approached us about providing the services at the site, and about applying for the grant. One thing I will say, though, because people have asked the question about the period of time that will be there, the period for the grant program is about 2 to 5 years. So I do want to let folks know that this, that this is an interim housing facility, and the length of the program is 2 to 5 years, because I think that question's been brought up a lot. And then, Oliver, did you want to talk about the safety measures as well?
Yeah, Bruce, is that all right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I think partly you can sense the frustration from the city's perspective. Here's the way we look at these particular issues. One, is there a decision point for the city to make regarding the use? In this instance, there wasn't a decision for the city to make. But what we have been doing is thinking about how do we address the obvious public safety concerns that everyone's articulating here. They're real. There's no doubt these facilities, when they first open, there's likely going to be certain things that aren't functioning well. And we're going to need to work with Dr. Smith, St. Joseph's, the county, to address those issues. as the facility moves forward. It's part of a larger plan. I spoke about it a little bit earlier. What's the city going to do about the disorder in town? I think everyone has said is true. The primary place that we see public safety issues in Santa Monica is in the downtown core. 50% of all our homeless calls, 36% of all crime occurs Ocean to Lincoln. That's part of where this facility is being located. The concerns are valid. I understand that. The staff understands that. What we've been talking about at the PD and at the staff level right now is what are we going to do as a police department and as a city to take responsibility for ensuring public safety, irrespective of what the land uses are. There's certain uses that go in that we don't have control over. It's still our responsibility to address the issues that result from those uses, whether it's the metro train line, whether it's a homeless shelter, whether it's this project. What we're going to be presenting for the council to review in a couple of weeks is a comprehensive plan where we're going to get more policing and more public safety and more public safety officers embedded day-to-day downtown. That's the one major component of our revitalization plan. What does that mean in practice? That means a shifting of how we deploy our downtown services unit, number one. We're going to increase the size of our downtown services unit where we'll have 7-day-a-week coverage with supervisors, sergeants, patrolling downtown in a way that the city hasn't seen in the last 5 to 7 to 10 years. That size of that team is going to increase.
I'm sorry, but they cannot staff the Santa Monica Police Department. This is completely off issue.
Okay, thanks, Hannah. Hold on.
Yeah, we can get back to talking about the facility for sure. What I wanted to articulate is what the city's plan is to address public safety issues.
No, this is off issue.
Yeah, we're trying to stay on topic
We're
here.
trying to
Can we
stay
get
on
the
topic.
questions answered?
It's important to understand how our city is going to get the funding for this extra police force to police this area. I don't understand how
you
that's
literally just said there are going to be problems. That's inherently the problem. You already know there's going to be crime and violence that is unnecessary to this neighborhood. So do something ahead of time besides put a proposal in that's going to take a month.
Let me just say this on the public safety front, and we can get back to the issue related to the project.
No, let's get back to the issue. And honestly, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Guys, let him speak, for God's sake. Come on.
It's okay.
Not when it's off issue.
He's talking about public safety. That is the issue right now.
Just stop the permit. I can't get a permit for windows.
Not downtown.
Maybe should we speak to that point? Maybe I know there's other questions, so we can get back to that. But on the public safety front, there needs to be more the city's doing, period. We're going to. How we're going to pay for that, I can get into the details. That's not what folks appear to want to talk about right now. So we'll address that in a couple of weeks with the council. What I want to say is this: there is going to be a wholesale readjustment of how we police the downtown core, the number of officers and public safety facilities that we have in the downtown, and the way that we respond and patrol. The way this whole process is worked out, I will take ownership for that. This could have been handled better. And I'm glad to hear we're going to have a meeting next week in person where we'll all be there and we'll have more discussions. But right now,
we're literally going to be living in a police state because you guys had to choose that place to build your facility. This is insane.
You know, problem is the location. Everything you're talking about.
Yes, we know. So, Oliver, given that we can anticipate there's going to be issues more likely at the beginning of a program like this where they're ironing out their issues, can we get the
So our
police
children
department
should be at risk because of that? No.
Can I finish my
No,
sentence?
no.
Well, you're
No, I am a mom in
What
this
I'm
neighborhood.
saying is, can we
I am
put
worried about
some
my daughters and my.
Can we put some
No, this
resources
is a safety
towards
issue.
No, fuck
Why are
you,
you
Bruce.
so worried
You're
about
giving
the
people,
interceptions when you didn't even let us have a say in what was happening?
Platform.
People, there's been a issue. Have you done anything about the previous issues going on? You're talking,
let
but
people
you still don't
fucking
have
talk,
a
Bruce.
This is one thing we can
You're
have
not
a
letting
say
talk.
in,
You're
and
not
I am
letting
willing
people
to
talk.
put my
And
feet
people
down.
are pissed, so let them talk, dude. Let them fucking talk.
Could I
Let
have
them fucking
my
talk.
question answered? I mean, like everybody's diverging. I mean, couldn't we get 150 beds somewhere else in the middle of the street
Exactly.
without having the ocean view? Please, this is like,
Yeah, dude,
this
let
is an
people like
obvious
Alex
logical.
talk. Alex, you have a great idea, dude.
Could you please
You have a
answer my
great idea. We
question,
should
Rachel?
listen
Great
to you.
question.
I
We
can,
should
this is
fucking
Maria
listen to
Funk.
you, and
We'll,
Bruce should
we'll
knock it
find
the
another
fuck off.
location with 150
Please talk,
beds.
Alex.
You know, we'll find a new location. But could you get more for your with the box that you're paying for this place somewhere else, somewhere more logical? You know, somewhere where, you know, there's no schools, there's no park. You know, like, this is an ocean view property, and it's not appropriate. It's obviously a political statement. So could you get more somewhere else, and could we actually have a more effective approach to house the unhoused?
Sorry, I just want to step in one sec here.
Let's let that question get answered. Let's let that question get answered.
Sorry, Bruce, it's
Yes.
Lana. Sorry. I would like for DMH, and this is a very good opportunity. I keep hearing the same question, and we need to succinctly, just very shortly and clearly define the process, because you need to explain how these grants work from the state to the county that goes into the hands of the organization, and how that it's the same amount of money, regardless if it's on Ocean Avenue, Pico, or Lincoln. Can somebody from the Department of Mental Health explain how the grant is not tied to the location, and that this is an anomaly in the sense that somebody reached out to St. Joseph's to say, hey, we have a property so that you can qualify for the grant. And please be clear about who is on the joint application with St. Joseph's. Is that possible?
Yeah, so Maria Funk, Department of Mental Health. So to answer the question, we do not base our funding and bed rates based on the location of our interim housing. So interim housing across the county is standardized. We have a standardized base rate that we use. And then if a site like our interim housing has additional services, like we have housing navigation, we have clinical services, we pay an additional amount. So it's not based on the address. So if this same number of beds was located, you know, in Long Beach, we'd be paying the same amount, or any other part of the county. So it's not based on that. It's based on other factors such as the size of the facility, how many, whether one person is in a room or two people are in a room, and the services that are provided. So that is how our bed rate is determined.
You should have picked a much larger property somewhere else.
Yeah, the question isn't how much the patients pay. The question is how much St. Joseph's is paying when you can get a larger property somewhere else besides the most expensive real estate in California.
The simple fact of the matter is you're not answering the question. You're dancing around it, and you're dancing around it. And again, if this was 5 years ago, maybe we'd be willing to give you the benefit of the doubt. But we've seen this over and over and over again with the Bridge Home, with all of these other facilities where it ends up being a absolute mayhem in the community. It's not that we don't want to help people. Let's be very clear here. It's not that we don't want to help people. It's that these nonprofits and these NGOs and these bureaucrats again and again and again have failed. So forgive us if we don't fucking trust you. Excuse my French. Forgive us if we don't trust you. And especially when you open this facility without telling anybody. You do it under cover of darkness, just like you did with the quote unquote harm reduction, the needle distribution program in Emerson Park, at Palisades Park, in all over the city. Like, why should we trust you? You're coming to us as though, oh, you've got this integrity and this trust. No, you don't. That's the problem, guys. The problem is we have seen this time and time and time again. And why, with this facility, this one time, oh, you're going to get it right.
Okay.
I just want, Christopher, I want to point out that it's not St. Joseph's.
Give anybody the heads up.
That's not St. Joseph's. Department of Mental Health. We have
I
a real.
understand it was Venice Family Clinic.
No. Chris, hold on. Department of Mental Health. We have an opportunity here to just clarify the process between your jurisdiction over the city and programs such as what he mentioned, harm reduction, or be it these types of grants. Could we discuss that one piece? But can you just answer very clearly who is on the joint application with St. Joseph's? Is it
what
the
joint application?
They said there was a joint.
It's LA. It's the LA County Department of Mental Health.
It's my understanding. So I mentioned earlier that the Department of Mental Health, we had a solicitation through our third-party intermediary, which is Brilliant Corners. It was a competitive solicitation. People submitted applications to get funding. The funding was Behavioral Health Bridge Housing, which is from the state that the LA County Department of Mental Health received. Lori, can you answer the question? I don't know that there was a joint application, or can you, I know that St. Joseph's Center was the applicant. I don't know if you applied with anyone else. I don't believe so.
That's correct, Dr. Funk. We submitted the application, but we didn't have the property. The developer had the property. So for a developer to be able to participate in this program, they had to partner with a service provider.
So are they on the application, the developer, the property owner?
They would be listed on the application as the developer, but it wasn't, we submitted the application just to
and the contract is just with St. Joseph Center.
I understand, but just so everybody understands this, I just want to be very clear, because if you guys say extra things, it gets very confusing. When the developer contacted St. Joseph's, part of the application requirement is to secure a property. So either A, St. Joseph's could go find a property and own it, and then they would be able to say they have a property, correct me if I'm wrong, or B, they go in partnership with the developer who's making the property available to them so that they can qualify for the grant. Is that correct?
Okay, well, I can answer that. It actually depends on the specific contract. It can be one of the, it can be either.
Please answer the question directly.
Is the developer suing the city of Santa Monica?
Yeah, but that's separate. Let's not confuse things right now. I want to be very clear that the developer, because everyone is caught up in if I get it, because you think, oh my gosh, couldn't you get 300 beds? The developer, unlike any other situation, normally St. Joseph's is an organization that does great work. They would have to find a building. But in this case, somebody went to them and said, hey, I know that in order for you to qualify to do this work, you have to secure a building. I have one. The loan is the same. The money that they get is the same regardless of the location. So really the choice to put it there started with the developer. They made it available to put it there. Now he's not on the call, so we can't ask those questions as to why they chose that. St. Joseph's is then now in the position to do the things they needed to do alongside DMH to build out the program. The other question then is, normally in these circumstances, when does DMH communicate? Is it the county supervisor's office? At what point do you guys engage in community communication? Isn't that a part of the requirement as well? When you do things like harm reduction, or if you come into a community and put this interim housing, isn't that part of the grant requirement that you're supposed to have a safety plan, a good neighbor plan, and have this communication? Or is that not a part of the requirement for this grant?
So the requirement when we did the solicitation was that we had to make sure that anybody that applied, that their property met the zoning requirements, that they were working with the city to make sure that they had any permits that were required. And, we were, as it was stated, I believe by Dr. Ryan earlier, that we were working with folks from the city of Santa Monica. We started working with them in March from the, I believe, Housing and Homeless Department and or Housing and Human Services Department, excuse me. And so we thought we were working in good faith with the city. We were working with St. Joseph Center. We were talking about things like good neighbor plans. And that was our absolute plan from the beginning, is how are we going to make sure that this site is, making that it is a place that is not causing problems in the neighborhood. And that was absolutely part of our intention.
But to inform the neighbors, but the informing the neighbors, that comes on who is supposed to. I understand you guys were probably working with Housing and Human Services in March before our new city manager had come on board. So I'm assuming that's when our interim city manager was involved. I don't know. I wasn't informed about it in March, April, May, June, July, August. So my question is, you guys inform the city, then I guess maybe Oliver, if you don't mind chiming in, sorry to put you on the spot.
No, that's
At
okay.
what point then, because I know you were not here in March, at what point does city council get involved or know about it, I should say? And I think people want to understand, and I can understand this as a business owner, because I just went to an opening of a restaurant who had to go through multiple permits regarding the illumination of the exit sign. They could barely open, right? And then people are mind blown that, like, how does something open with, we have hearings all the times about less important things coming to the community. So why is it that something that's so big doesn't come in a hearing format? If you could just explain that for the folks.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not clear on what happened in April. When I've talked to our team, the earliest I'm aware we were notified about the facility was in June of this year. We absolutely, I think it's clear from this discussion, there's more we could have done and should have done on how we notified folks once we did find out what was happening. The way we found out was through the developer contacting the city in June, informing us that they were planning to move forward with this use. The city didn't have regulatory authority to stop it. It doesn't require a permit from the city. They were able to move forward by right. That's at that point, a couple of months ago when I started, we heard about this issue. We notified the council that this was happening. Clearly, we could have done a better job at the staff level. That's our responsibility to make sure we're thinking through how to notify folks when things are happening. That's something we can do better moving ahead. That being said, it's not something the city has regulatory oversight over. We have authority over how do we ensure that if there are issues, we're responding to try to make it safe. The use and the ability for the facility to
try to make it safe, that is not good enough.
Okay.
Agreed. We need to make sure that we keep things.
Dude, I'm sorry. We didn't know is not a good excuse. You're making excuses.
It's ridiculous.
I will take
it's ridiculous comment. Absolutely
You're making
ridiculous.
excuses.
Chris,
Stop
we
it.
understand. No, we're not. I want to say that. 'Cause
Lana,
see
I know. I'm
Hello.
sorry. I'm letting you. I'm just saying. I'm
I hear
talking
you,
for a
but we
lot
got
of
to move
people
forward.
here.
So, but in order to do that, we have to expose where the gaps are so we can
Well, I'm
get it
exposing the
right.
gaps, Lana.
I got it. So we're doing that now.
Okay,
We
I'll
know.
shut up.
We've
I'll
heard.
shut up.
Yeah.
I will shut up.
Thank you.
We're doing
I'm
that
on your
now.
side,
But
Lana.
can you explain the by right just so it's very clear? Because when these words sometimes, even for myself, right? So like when you say there was no permit, because people still don't understand that. So can you just explain, Oliver, how this is a by right and how the city cannot say you're not allowed to do this or there's not any special permitting? Can you just make that simple?
Yeah. Simply put, there are certain uses that don't require a permit. Folks can just move forward with implementing that particular use without needing a permit from the city. This is one of those uses. It's identified as supportive housing. Technically, supportive housing is approved by right. There's a variety of things that aren't allowed by right. This is. And so
Oliver,
yes.
Pardon me, and I apologize for the rudeness, but I just want to throw this out there, and I'm sorry for jumping ahead of everyone who's polite and has their hand raised. This is going to be the basis for the lawsuit that's likely going to occur here. This isn't supportive housing. Everything that's just been described and detailed and in the materials that have been presented from the mayor this week, et cetera, this is a mental health facility that the developer, because he wants to benefit from the subsidy and all the money that's flowing into this space that's been discussed and debated earlier on the call, this is not a by right use. This is being masqueraded as a by right use. And that's likely to be the basis for the litigation. I don't know if the city would want to be a part of that because my sense is you guys are afraid of Leo and all the rest of it, but I'm a developer as well. I own about 22,000 apartment units. I'm very familiar with by right uses versus other stuff. This is going to be the point of order if the neighbors here collectively want to challenge this. It's not a by right use. I think the city's kind of rolling over here because I'm not really sure what's being described is, quote, supportive housing. It sounds like a mental health facility. And under the California Building Code, that's 7500 I3, which it may sound like a technicality, but that's mental health facilities, juvenile detention centers, and jails. I-2 is senior housing or supportive housing, which the prior use was. Again, I'm very apologetic. Sorry for jumping in.
Thank
but
you, Mr.
this is
Gardner.
really, frankly, this is the basis for if the group here, NOMA, et cetera, wants to actually mobilize and fund something, this would be the basis for a challenge to this. The rest of it, as far as the city, knowing from March or maybe in June, I mean, people should be apoplectic about that. It's
please keep
honestly an
talking.
embarrassment.
Keep going.
Great.
I don't have anything else to say. I will say those who have advanced in the chat some level of organization, if we want to move that to something more formal and there's an attorney on the phone, I think it would be very helpful if that attorney responded to that email. So we might figure out getting involved with a land use attorney, because again, I know the playbook of this gentleman. It's not quite, I'm not involved in not-for-profit or housing that benefits from grants, et cetera. I only deal in market rate, but I know plenty of people who work in this arena, and this is exactly what's happening. He has the property. He wanted, to get on the gravy train of what the governor is trying to do relative to approved funding, et cetera. And I appreciate everything St. Joseph's does. You do good work and all of that. And everyone talked about your nobility. I second all of that. But if we're actually talking about solutions to try to prevent this, because we seem to be moving to, there's going to be a trial period of safety and we're going to figure it out as we go and do better than other locations. I don't think the residents on this call are really interested in that. I think they're interested in, hey, you're asking for forgiveness now. You didn't ask for any kind of permission. It's not a by right use. And now we're kind of running to scramble to, try to prevent this from actually happening.
Okay, I think we got it. Thank you so much, Mr. Gardner. Good points.
I sent you my info on the
So,
on the
and
chat.
Oliver, do you?
Wait, that was the most important speaker. Let's not cut him off.
Are you able to answer any of that, Oliver, in terms of like what he just said about the usage?
From the assessment that our team has done, it appears to meet the definition of supportive housing. That's the assessment that we've done. We don't think we can stop it. I will absolutely revisit that issue with our team.
Got to revisit that immediately, because the city should stop this before we have to hire our own lawyers and bring a suit against this. You guys, should stop this.
Let me call on some people who've been patiently waiting for a very long time. Greg Marina. Greg.
Coming. Thank you. Sorry. I appreciate you calling on me, Bruce. So clearly our neighborhood didn't know about this. I live up the street. SB 329 protects us from exactly this due process issue. So why was there no due process, and why wasn't Senate Bill 329 considered? I have two other questions. St. Joseph said other city leaders toured the facilities. It sounded like there was some city staff involved as well. Who are these people, and can you please provide names? Sounds like you have them. And are you suggesting that they were supposed to notify and include us in the process? That's unclear to me. Lastly, how do we protect the kids and the elderly from mentally ill and drug addicts? That is an issue, right? There's a lot of businesses on Ocean Ave.
Unstoppable.
Okay. What is the security plan for outside of the facility, at the parks, in the streets, and the alleys? Thank you.
Thanks, Greg. Anyone want to take that on? And by the way, we were supposed to stop at 9, but I want to let people try to have their say
I'm going to take that on. People have been failed by your city leader.
So to answer the question, Lori, if I can have you on deck, just talk a little about the security plan that Greg has asked about. I appreciate the question, Greg. On the piece around city officials on the timeline, we try to be really clear. We've been able to do a briefing with a number of the current city council members, and then we've been working with the city Housing and Human Services Department in order to inform the process. On the planning side, the development team has been working with the planning department for all the things that Oliver just mentioned. So, but mostly it's the folks I just mentioned. And Lori, if you can talk a little about the security plan on the outside and how, and specifically how we're going to engage our security teams as far as patrolling as well.
Sorry, before you speak to that, do you guys have a stopping point when you're going to say, okay, there's been enough break-ins, there's been enough violence, before you say, okay, this was a bad idea, we need to stop this program?
Okay, let them talk about security.
Violence, and that's actually pretty offensive. That when you talk about people speaking their minds, that you somehow call it violence. Are you serious? Are you talking about violence when people are speaking their minds and who are passionate?
No. I'm talking about safety issues. We're all here because we're concerned about safety.
Yes, let them answer the question
maybe
about
to answer
security.
the question around the safety plan outside, since we're talking about safety.
But you're
Lord,
talking
you
about violence, and we take that very seriously. There is no violence. There is a spirited discussion.
No, we're not talking about violence in the discussion.
How are you going to know if it occurs
physical violence at the facility?
Chris, we're talking about
let her answer.
How are you going to know if there's problems that occur outside of your facility?
You have accused people of, you used the word violence.
No, Chris, you're misunderstanding.
She's not saying that. Listen to her words. She's not saying she's not.
That's not what she's saying.
She's talking about the potential for violence at the facility, Chris. She's not talking about people on the
why in this conversation, why on earth would you bring up violence? Why on earth would you raise that?
It's the potential.
Why do you think there are so many people on this call?
Discussion. This is a
Chris, you're misunderstanding. You're misunderstanding.
No, stop.
She's talking about the potential for
use the word violence.
Can I please clarify?
About
you
the
use
crime.
The word violence.
No, I'm going to use crime, violence.
I'm not misunderstanding
all
anything.
of it. Can I please speak?
The word violence.
Okay, can we please
stop?
I
did.
Chris, you need to be quiet, or I have to remove you from the meeting. I'm sorry.
You can
kick him out of the room.
By all means.
Anyway, would someone like to answer?
Clarifying.
Yes.
Is there a point that you would say, okay, like this event has happened, this event has happened, this event has happened, and they're all connected to this facility? Would you say, all right, maybe we should close it down and move on? Or are you going to just let it keep going until your lease is up or until whatever termination it is?
I've heard your question, Hannah, so I appreciate it. So what I'm going to do is try to answer two things. One, I'm hearing around the safety plan, the external piece, which I do want to answer. And then what I'm hearing from you, Hannah, is what's really the accountability if things are not going right. And I'll also have our LA County Department of Mental Health folks talk about accountability for the project as well. So Lori, do you want to talk about the external security piece first?
Yeah, absolutely. So we take safety and security seriously. And as I mentioned, we operate many other interim housing sites. This one we will have enhanced security at as well. We're going to have.
No, I hear that your site is very secure. I'm talking about the
Hannah, there was a question right before yours about external. So your question about the accountability piece is coming right up. I promise you. I just want to answer this external one first, and then we'll get to your question. But we do hear you, absolutely. So yeah, Lori, if you can continue on the external facing security piece that Greg Morena asked. Mm-hmm.
Yes, so we're going to make sure for these particular sites that we have 2 professional security guards at all times. So that'll be 24/7. One will be posted at the front of the facility. The other security guard will be patrolling the perimeter of the facility at all times. In addition to those professional security guards, we have our internal team. So resident monitors are going to be on site. They do monitoring as well. We also have an internal safety team that will be monitoring the sites. They'll swing by throughout the day. They also specifically will have these particular sites on their overnight rounds. So they go to the sites, they check in with security, they look around the perimeters, they look at the back. They even go as far as to take photos and videos that they send to Dr. Ryan and myself. We're on some very long safety threads. It's our internal way of making sure that there's kind of this extra security protocol to make sure that everybody is safe and that the neighborhood is secure as well.
What are the security guards permitted to do if there is an out-of-hand patient?
Yeah, so if there is, our security company, first of all, is well-trained in even crisis response. So we work with a team of a company that trains their guards well. So if something were to happen, they will step in and they will make the appropriate phone calls. First of all, they'll make sure our staff is present. And well, we have staff overnight 24/7, as we mentioned. They'll make sure that our staff is informed. And it depends on the particular situation. There are many different situations that could happen, but whether they make a 911 call, whether we're addressing, a situation with PMRT, it just depends on the specific situation. But again, we have similar models. This one will have enhanced security. We have similar models that we currently operate that work well.
And Dr. Funk, you want to talk about the monitoring piece around accountability to Hannah's question, how you're monitoring, how you go about it, and if things were not going well?
Absolutely. So we do for all of our interim housing sites, our team. So first of all, we have a team of people that oversee all our interim housing. We have liaisons to each site. They're, like I said, in regular contact with the sites. They do site visits. We do 4 monitoring site visits, 2 are scheduled, 2 are unscheduled. We also have a staff person who goes out every other month to each site. They interview clients, they do client satisfaction surveys. That's where we can, sometimes hear about issues where we then follow up with the facilities. If we find that they're not in compliance with their contract, we ask for a corrective action plan. And then the county has protocols of how we terminate contracts if a contractor is not in compliance with their contract.
I thank you guys for answering the question about security, but can I ask you, we also own a business in town, and so I just don't know that you quite understand the ramifications. You put mentally ill people outside of a facility at a park, in the alleys, in the neighborhood, in the businesses down the street. There are serious repercussions, and you have 2 people on site, and you have someone rolling around. I know Oliver tried to answer that question with the SMPD, but that could be a lot of issue on the street. Our business will have issues. Our home will have issues. And so is there no funding for any sort of outside security of your place? Or does the city have to burden that?
Outside security, meaning, so as we mentioned, each site will have the 2 additional security guards. And then I think we mentioned, Carlos, that we have internal security safety teams who monitor the surrounding community throughout the day and throughout all night and shift hours. And they will do that with these 2 projects as well. So that's our internal safety team that will do the quality assurance and the safety monitoring around the 2 sites during the day and throughout the evening.
I hear that, man, but you're talking about 50
Can we get back to
people.
my question about accountability?
Wait, Greg, sorry,
Those
is
are
the
all
county
terrible
supervisor-
questions. Just answer the questions. Why are we doing this?
Is the county supervisor's office on here? Because when I spoke with Constance, she assured me that they also were contacted the sheriff's department to relieve, if needed, pressure off of our police department. I just want to confirm that if the county supervisor's office is on here.
Covering your tracks, you knew about it from the beginning.
By the way, our police officers,
Constance is here.
the police officers I've spoken with, they're quite shocked and concerned about this. So I don't know if the city or St. Joseph has confronted the police, but this is very concerning. So
You said a number of times on the call
City
that
also
city
is
council
underfunded.
members were
City doesn't have money.
notified. It wasn't obviously Mayor Negretti. Could you please tell us which council members were aware of this and involved in this, please?
Please, that was my question.
Give us the names.
also seems that our city manager knew since June. So,
It's a cover-up. Everybody knew about it except for us.
Step up and inform the community as a first action as a city manager. So total failure of communication between the
Okay, so we're making the same points over and over. We know we weren't consulted. I'm the chair of the Human Services Commission and the chair of NOMA, and I didn't know about this at all until about 10 days ago when I asked for this meeting. So
And
clearly
Bruce,
the
how did you
outreach
find out
didn't
about
That's a
happen.
lot longer than
Bruce,
anybody else.
And
how
we were
did you
not
find out?
from Greg. Greg
And
reached
Greg,
out to
how
me.
did you
And
find out?
I found out from the mayor. And that
There you
was
go.
when she knew. But there were other people who were involved, and I'm trying to find out who knew.
Well, what I'm saying is it was a failure of outreach, and I think that's been very well established. We are 25
want
minutes
the names.
past.
We want to know the names. Why aren't
Yep.
they shared?
All right, we'll
Name
see if we can get
names.
them. Yeah.
Mayor,
Name
don't you talk to your
names.
city manager?
I've been trying to say something. Can anybody hear me or see me?
Yes.
We can
I've
hear you
been
the whole
trying,
time.
I've
Everybody's
been
been trying to
trying
say
to ask
something.
a question. I don't know. He's about to cut us off and say we all should go to bed now.
Oh, I know.
Well, there are 50 other people with their hands up, so I apologize that I haven't gotten to you yet.
Okay, I'm sorry. May I ask a question?
Sure.
I wanted to know, well, I have a couple. One is, am I correct in hearing, it was very complicated about whether there are going to be escorts escorting people out every time they go anywhere, or escorts escorting people out for specific things? That's my first question, because it was a very complicated response about safety.
All right, let's get that answered. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, may I ask your question? May I ask your name? Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry.
Oh, you muted her. Okay. Well, anyway, I'll get your name afterwards because I just want to make sure that we follow up on any of the comments. So we can tell you, so your two questions are good ones. Lori, if we can
Just answer the fucking questions.
We will. Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate it.
Michelle.
So we can talk. So Lori, if you can talk a little bit about the about our resident monitors and also transportation for activities as well.
So as I mentioned, we have a entry-exit policy that's very well established. We will be working with the participants to explain to them, and
we just want to know if they can come and go as they please.
I want to know if I'm in the park.
Yes, they've already answered that, guys. They've already
They can
answered
go
that.
anywhere they want at any
They can
time
go.
between the hours that it's
okay.
open.
That's my point. Are you aware of the fact that our police commissioner resigned? Captain, excuse me, resigned recently, that we are in fiscal free fall, and that we have probably the least amount of police protection per capita of any city around here, and you're now bringing this huge security burden to us, and you've told us a lot about all the safety within your units, but very little do I understand about any safety in our neighborhood, and you are going to create a mental problem. We already have so much stress right now in the United States of America, so much stress in our homes. And going to the park, walking around, we have coyotes, and if you have a dog, that's more stress, but we are stressed. And this is just going to take this neighborhood, this community.
Okay. Can we just, I have a very important question. I want to know what we're going to do at this point, since this happened. What are the stopgaps or the urgent process or guidelines or permitting or whatever the city and the city council is going to do so this doesn't set a precedent for all the other development that's going on?
Okay. So before that gets answered, I just want to say we are a half an hour beyond when we usually stop our meeting. There's going to be another meeting about this next week. There's clearly a lot more questions and a lot more information that's needed. If our friends from St. Joseph Center could put the information for that meeting in the chat, that would be great. If you want to send it to me, I can send it to the NOMA mailing list, but many of the people on this call are not on that list. So let's be sure that everybody knows when that meeting is going to happen and where. I want to wrap this up soon. Everybody's been that has come here as a guest has been very generous with their time. So could we get an answer just to that last question, and then I'll get one more beyond it.
An answer to mine.
Safety.
Yeah, you're not answering accountability. I would like to hear an answer on that.
Excuse me, could we have stop with people butting in and let people who have their hands up answer? You are hogging the whole thing, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Phyllis. I agree. And you may ask your question while you're there.
You're on mute.
You're muted, Phyllis.
Yeah.
Thank you. I did arrive to the meeting late, and I hope other people can have a chance, Bruce. I hope this can go on a little bit longer, as long as it's respectful and organized. My question is, and I got here late because I was at a commission meeting, and this may have been answered already, but I am going to comment. I really question whether these kinds of facilities should be placed in any residential neighborhood to begin with. Okay, but what I'm confused about is we're bringing in people who are seriously mentally ill. I don't know what this kind of program is. What I'm familiar with is seriously mentally ill people in traditional kinds of treatment with psychiatrists, locked facilities, not locked like a prison, but I'm not familiar with this. And I would like to know how this works. If these people under other conditions, would they qualify for a like a UCLA bed? There aren't enough, of course. And what is the success rate of this type of treatment? It doesn't sound like there's a psychiatrist. It doesn't sound like it's traditional to me. So I don't know. That's my question. Can someone answer that? And what is the success rate of this housing first for seriously mental ill people? I can see housing first for, people to get themselves together, but what about, what is this for seriously mentally ill?
Great.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Lori or Dr. Smith?
Jump in there and let Dr. Funk jump in if there's anything additional. But what I would
Is this really what we want to listen to?
Yes.
No, it isn't. We want to know how we want to stop this.
That's something you guys can talk about off this meeting. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Lori.
As I mentioned, thank you, Bruce. The majority of the participants who come into the site, into the wellness center, will already be connected to DMH services. If they're not connected, that's the first thing we'll work on. So they will be connected to psychiatry and other types of mental health services. The goal is to get them inside and make sure we're stabilizing. But so I hope that helps answer that piece of the question, Phyllis. Let me know if there's another.
No.
Okay. Ken Parr has been patiently waiting for a very long time.
Thank you, Bruce. As you've seen from many of the comments in the chat, this has been a horrifying and terrifying thing for the neighbors here. I am the Director of Finance and Operations for Carlthorpe School. That is 0.3 miles away from the 413 location. Been a lifelong resident, fourth generation Santa Monican. And from a security perspective, to say this is worrisome to us would be my understatement of the year. It's been nice to hear that you have 2 people for your facility inside, but what happens to the people outside? And if you can just ask them to leave for misbehaving after not giving them background checks and no checks for sobriety or requirements, the 2 closest things to this facility is more than 1,000 children between the ages of 5 and 12. I'm one of the people responsible for about a quarter of those. And
Bruce,
this is terrifying to us. I mean, to know that you have 2 people going to be circling the outside of your facility when they can be kicked out of there and left to our neighborhoods. There are no stores or anything. This is all residential neighborhoods, and it is 2 schools, ours and Roosevelt's, and it's not acceptable to us. And also to have this dropped on us, there are so many failures involved with this. And also to point out that it's a developer that's currently in a lawsuit with the city that has offered up these properties at these key locations. I'd love to know what your plan is when you have someone that you have asked to leave the facility that is out in the neighborhood and you have security guards that will make phone calls and take videos? Is that really it?
Thanks, Ken.
Yeah, thank you for your question, Mr. Pryor. I appreciate it. And thank you for what you do. I'm a former educator, and so I understand the concern. So if we have participants that are not following the code of conduct or are good, we would not just say, you have to go, we're going to put your stuff outside. We would immediately work with the Department of Mental Health and develop a relocation plan. We would transport those folks to the facility that's been identified for them that may be a better fit, whether it's a higher level of care, a different type of care. We would not just exit somebody from the shelter in that manner for them to just leave, leave.
So it's a shelter?
Assuming they're willing after they have a disagreement with you and they are of the mind to actually listen and have a proper conversation with you.
Why aren't you just walk out? Can't they just walk out?
So our experience has been that we are able to speak with clients. That's the reason we have this robust staffing model. Right. We have a lot of clinical staff and other staff that as a care team that's going to be working with these folks.
There are no numbers around staffing or security. None.
My concern
no specifics.
My concern is the other people coming in when they hear about these two facilities. My concern is those that are coming and going, well, I want to be there too.
Well, we've already addressed that. They've already addressed that. There's nobody is allowed to visit the facility. There are no friends or family or anybody who comes to the facility. So
that's not what you're saying.
I'm not saying visit the facility. I'm saying just loitering in the neighborhood.
Oh,
that's all.
Right.
There will be active outreach all around the center to make sure that anybody who is kind of hanging around or anything that would appear to be that they're trying to come in, that will all be addressed. We really are focused on safety and security. We want the neighborhood to be safe and secure. I do understand the school issue. We all do. So our goal truly is to make sure that this facility is safe.
Bruce,
why aren't you drug testing?
Danielle?
Bruce, waiting very patiently for a long time.
Go ahead, Chip.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You and I have corresponded via email all day today, and you correctly predicted that the meeting would be rough and there'd be a lot of noise, and it would be hard to be heard over all that noise because there were so many comments and so many speakers. You and I spoke about the law and the compliance with the law. SB, is it 426, I believe? You have the number there somewhere.
326.
Thank you so much. And that is a clear indication that in order to receive the grant funds, that the County of Los Angeles has to go through a procedure known as the Good Neighbor requirements. And among other things, the Good Neighbor requirements actually require in the pre-planning stages community input from a variety of stakeholders, including ordinary citizens of the area that's protected, before any application is approved and funded. If someone would take the trouble to research that Senate bill, they will find that this process was not followed and this grant is invalid. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thanks, Chip.
Hey,
okay,
Bruce,
guys.
Bruce, one quick question for you.
Who's this?
This is Ken Parr from Carl.
Hey, Ken. Yeah.
Apologize for interrupting. I haven't seen the information on the second meeting for next week. I haven't seen that pop up in the chat. There's been a lot in the chat, so please forgive me if I've missed it. But I'd like to pause for a second and see that gets in there where we could all find out exactly where it is and get the information on that.
Dr. Smith, do you guys have that set up yet? Is it
the meeting will take? Yes, thank you so much. The meeting will take place next Thursday at 6:30 at Mount Olive Lutheran Church, and the address is 1343 Ocean Park Boulevard, Santa Monica, 90405. I can put that in the chat. But that will be at 6:30 at Mount Olive Lutheran Church.
Great.
And can I ask one question?
Yes,
Quick question? This
Bruce,
is Randolph.
Hi,
Sorry.
this is Jen. I never got to ask my question.
Let me just quickly jump in because I know you're going to end this soon. So I wanted to know if there's any type of statistics or anything about the neighborhoods around the facilities that have created these types of environments before in terms of crime and in terms of property values. It looks like, this is prime real estate, and it would appear to me that the whole of Santa Monica, particularly Ocean Avenue, could suffer major property value loss because of these two facilities. It's going to drive away people from buying, and it's going to certainly lower the ability from people to sell and get their money out of these properties. Do they have any response to that? I know that's
the purpose.
Still, I'm concerned, and I'm sure a lot of people are. In real estate, it's very concerning.
Thanks, Randolph.
Bruce, I was just wondering if it might be possible to collect people's questions in advance of the next meeting to ensure everybody's voice is heard and because I know clearly we're not going to have enough time tonight, but
no, we're already 40 minutes past our deadline. So,
yeah, I just wondered if there might be a way to collect their questions so that
too late.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
one thing we can do is
harm reduction kits in these facilities.
We do have on the question of collecting questions. We do have. We'll put a link in the chat, and if you use the QR code, that will actually give information. And there is a space there for questions. You can put those questions there so that we're prepared to answer those questions. So we'll continue to put that link in the chat.
I have one very pressing question. Are you guys providing harm reduction kits in these facilities?
The answer, Lori, the answer is no.
Are you providing harm reduction kits in these facilities?
The answer is no.
Reduction kits, no.
No, or sharp.
I wanna commend again St. Joseph for your work. You guys are truly doing God's work. Unfortunately, this situation is not optimal. So I hope that you find it within you to find a different location, because this community is not gonna let this go. We're gonna do everything possible to keep our children, our families safe, and especially, not to utilize homeless as political shield, as this is happening. This is not a good look. You're collaborating with one of the most controversial developer in the city that is in lawsuits left and right with the city. And I also want to say to the city of Santa Monica that this is not a good look for you as well. So we hope to have other answers in the next meeting, because we're not going to let go. We're going to mobilize and we're going to fight this.
Thank you, Alex.
Thanks very much.
And I just want to thank all our guests for being here and
thank you, Alex,
and giving us all this information, and for being willing to have another meeting next week to further the discussion. Thanks everybody for being here, and I'll see you next time.